UV. Thank you, Jinko, for starting the recording. This is a presentation for International UVRI info session for 2024 on February 8th, 2024. So let me start with this. Okay, so the agenda for today, will cover the international student intern eligibility and its requirements. Also, how to process the DS 2019, which is the form required for the application of the J1 visa. The DS 7002, which is the form required for us to issue the DS 2019, the visa process in general, and finally, the resources that we will provide, we have available at the webpage. Actually, on the webinar chat, my colleague Junko just posted the link to our webpage, so you can go there and see all the resources once this presentation is finished. So to start, the first thing I want to cover is that the UVRI program will run from June 1st to August 31st, 2024. That's the range of dates that students can come as international undergrad visitor research interns. The host department must get approval from the graduate admission first. That means that only you can submit applications for your students only after the approval from the registrar, from the graduate admission office. This application started on February 1st, so you can already submit your request for interns to come, and you can find the link on our webpage as well as this presentation. The international UVRI usually apply for a J1 visa. That's the most common visa that they use to come, the visa we will be discussing about, because that's the one that closely matches the requirements for this program. So in order to qualify for a J1 visa in this category, the international student intern category, the student must be currently enrolled and pursuing a degree at an accredited post-secondary academic institution outside of the US for at least 2 years. Be in good academic standing at their home institution outside of the US. The student must return to their academic program outside of the US after fulfilling and obtaining, after the end of the program to fulfill and obtain the degree from such academic institution. The U.S. Internship must fulfill the educational objective to their current degree program and their home institution. That means that this internship must be connected to their objective and goals for the program they're currently coursing outside of the U.S. Also have verifiable English language skills sufficient to function on a day-to-day basis in the internship environment. Be primary in the US to engage in a student internship program rather than engage in employment or providing services to an employer. This is not a job or a work visa. This is a visa intended for the student to come and participate in the internship program, which should have academic purposes also. Be accepted into the student internship program at the post-secondary accredited academic institution listed on the Form DS 2019, which will be issued by Stanford. This means that Stanford is issuing the DS 2019, and they should be accepted into this program before we can issue this document. Have sufficient finances to support themselves and their dependents for their entire stay in the United States, including housing and living expenses. I will go over the specific numbers in a couple of slides, but in general, they need to provide that they can support themselves while they are in the US with proof of funding. The requirements for the specific international student internship program must be at least 32 hours per week. No more than 20% could be clerical work. The minimum duration of the program is 3 weeks, and no extension are allowed once the program started. So the duration can be set before, but no after the program started. All tasks assigned must be necessary for the completion of the student internship program. The hosting department must verify the student English language ability, and finally, this must not displace American workers. Also, this program exists solely to assist the student intern in achieving their objectives of their participation in the student internship program. Consists of work-based learning rather than ordinary employment or skilled labor. So it has to have an academic component or objective. Expose the participant to American techniques and methodologies and technologies, and expand upon the participant existing knowledge and skills, and not duplicate the student intern prior experience. Finally, a student may participate in an internship with or without wages. To be employed, however, the student needs the approval of the exchange program's responsible officer and the student's home institution dean or academic advisor. That means Bechtel and the home institution when the student is coming from. The develop and conduct evaluation for each student's intern. All programs must conduct and concluding evaluations prior to the conclusion of the internship, and both the student intern and the immediate supervisor must sign these evaluation forms. It's important that this happens before the end of the program, because sometimes the student will depart to the US without signing the documents, and then the evaluations will be incomplete. So it's very relevant that this happens before the student depart the US. Next, let's talk about financial requirements. All international students interns on J1 visa must have sufficient funding for the duration of the program. The budget for this year is for covering from June 11 to August 31st is the UG research intern fee, which is $750. The health insurance and campus health fee, which is mandatory for all J1 students or J1 interns in this case, is $2,033. And the living expenses is $6,162. Those are the amounts that the student needs to cover with proof of funding. The English requirement, as I mentioned before, all J1 holders must possess sufficient proficiency in the English language as determined by an objective measurement of the English language proficiency to successfully participate in their program and to function on a day-to-day basis. This objective measure can be taken in several forms: a TOEFL score or equivalent test of 89 or higher, a signed documentation from the academic institution or an English language school, a documented interview conducted by the department, either in person, by video conferencing, by telephone, if video conferencing is not a viable option. So there are ways in which you can measure this English proficiency, but it has to be measured. The health insurance requirement, as I mentioned before, J1 visa holders must be insured, is a requirement of the visa category. And the minimums for coverage are the ones on the tab that you're looking at, which is the medical benefits have to be covered for 100,000, repatriation of remains 25,000, medical evaluation for 50,000, and the deductible cannot be less than $500. Those are the standards for J1 students that needs to be met by the insurance policy that cover the participation in this program. The DS-2019 request process. So let's talk about how you start the process of requesting a DS-2019 for the student. The student must be approved by the registrar office to attend Stanford as a UG visitor research intern first. In order to submit the DS-2019 request, the registrar office must have assigned an employee ID to the incoming UVRI. This is very important for technical reasons. We need the employee ID before we can issue the DS-2019, so that's why the approval is required prior to the submission. For interns that will start on June, or that plan to start on June, with start date in June, the deadline to submit the request for UVRIs to the Graduate Admission Office of the University Registrar is April 1st, 2024. Once approved by the registrar, the deadline to submit the complete application for the UVRI is May 1st, 2024 by 5 p.m. That's the deadline to submit the documents to Bechtel. For July start date, the deadline to submit to the registrar office is May 1st. And once approved, the deadline to submit the documents to UVRI DS2019 application is June 1st, 2024 by 5 p.m. Next, before you start your application, it's very important that you have all the information required. A complete DS-700 form using the guide provided by Bechtel. We have on our webpage guide on how to fill out this form. We need this form to submit to process the request. A PDF of the passport biographical page. We needed to issue the document too. And finally, the proof of funding, which also can be on PDF format. So we can verify the funding available by the student. Be careful reading the dates in the passport because most of the time in many countries, majority of countries, the format is day, month, and year, whereas in the US it's month, day, and year. So sometimes it's a little confusing. If you see 0401, you may think automatically it's April 1st, but actually it's not, it's January 4th. So make sure to check carefully that part because it's really confusing even for someone that works with passport all the time like me. We get confused all the time. So we have to double check that date. Double check the city of birth and country of citizenship information before adding it to the form. The place of birth on the passport may not be the city of birth, and we need the city of birth. So if you just copy what is on the passport, may not be accurate. So my recommendation is consult with the student to have the exact city of birth because that's the information we need to provide to the service system in order to create the DS2019. Once you have all the information necessary, you can go to our webpage and submit the request form for the DS2019. You will find this information on our webpage. I will share the links at the end. The form is fairly simple. You just copy all the information you will have on the DS 7002 into the form. It's the same information. So you just copy that information into the form and submit it with all the forms and requirement, and that should be it. Please use the most recent DS 7002, which is available on our webpage. Instructions and samples on this form can be found on our website. I'm not going to go over the whole form. It's a little long and redundant because the information is kind of repetitive. So I will let you check the information. If you have any questions, you can always reach out and we will clarify. So in a glance, the immigration process for an international intern that is coming on the UVRI category for the internship program will be the one that you're seeing on this chart, which first the hosting department will submit the DS2019 request to Bechtel, right? That's the first step. We'll receive the request. Then Bechtel issue the DS2019 and email it with the DS002 signed by Bechtel to the student department. This is a change from last year. Now we can email it. Before, you will need to get the original one. Now we can email it to you and you can email it to the student. The student pays a one-time service fee and a complete DS-160. This is the standard visa application process. You pay the service fee and then schedule the appointment using the DS-160 form that is available at the embassy portal. Then the student goes to the U.S. Embassy or consulate to apply for the J-1 visa. The student gets the appointment and go to the J-1 visa appointment, obtain the visa. The consular officer will review the application, confirm the service payment, run the required security checks, and grant the visa to the student. Once the student has the visa, he can come to the port of entry through the border via airplane or any means the student decide to use. And once the student arrives, the immigration officer at the port of entry review the passport, the visa, the DS2019, all the immigration documents, and process the student through the U.S. visit collection biometrical system and admit the student into the U.S. prior to the start of the program. That's how it works in a glance. So the DS2019, which is the document the student needs to apply for the J-1 visa, is similar to what you're looking here. Please double check this document, because if the students show up at the embassy with wrong information on this document, they will reject the visa, and that will delay the process significantly. So please check the document before you send it, that all the information is the same that you provided. And if there's any mistakes or any error or any incorrect information, just let us know so we can fix it before you send it to the student. Mostly all students will get a visa like the one you're seeing on the screen, except for people from Canada. They are exempt for the visa application. They just need the DS-219 and the DS-700 to come to the US. But the rest of the world, almost the rest of the world, needs to apply for a J1 visa at a US embassy. Once they approve, they obtain something like what you're looking at. And the important part of this process is that the student verify that they get the right visa. I mean, it's very unlikely that they're going to get the wrong one, but if it happens, they need to fix it before coming. Needs to be a J1 visa, of course. The expiration date varies a lot. It depends on countries, and it depends on the type of studies. It depends on the students in particular cases. But in general, the visa could be used until expiration. It should expire after the start of the program. And a small detail that is not very often a problem, but sometimes the embassy will issue a visa with a M, with a S. Most of the time come with an M, that means multiple entries, which means you can use this visa multiple times. You can come and go from the US as long as the visa is valid. But if it has an S, that means single entry, and that means this visa can only be used once. Specific cases will be issued with S visa, and in that case, the student will need to apply for a new visa every time they decide to travel out of the country. Additional information. UVRIs are permitted to enter up to 30 days prior to the start date on the DS-2019 to arrive to campus and settle in. Also, they have 30 days of grace period after the end of the DS-2019 to prepare their departure. They are not allowed to engage in any program or activity related to the program between these two periods, or in these two periods, between obviously is the program. All UVRIs are required to complete an arrival confirmation information form upon entry to the US. We will provide that information to the student once we create the DS-2019, and must attend an orientation session at Bechtel. Failure to complete the arrival confirmation can result in a violation of their immigration status. If they are not able to enter the country by the start date indicated in the DS-2019, please contact Bechtel as soon as possible. This means that the student needs to contact us and check in with us so we can activate their DS-2019 once they arrive in the country. If they don't do, we won't activate it, and they won't be meeting their immigration requirements. Also, if they cannot come on the time they're supposed to, we can change the DS-2019, but that can only happens before the student arrives to the country. So if any issue arises with the student, please contact us immediately so we can help you navigate that situation. The faculty or department host is responsible for completing at least one evaluation of the intern and submitting this to Bechtel International Center after the completion of the program. Again, the requirement is that you complete one evaluation after the completion of the program. However, my recommendation is always get this done before the end of the program so you can get the signature of the student, because if the student departs the day after the program, it will be out of the US and it will be harder for you to collect this information. Remember, the student must sign this form. All this information live in our webpage. So if you go right now to bechtel.stanford.edu and search for the departments tab, scroll down to F and J students, and then on the menu, undergraduate visiting research interns, you will see all this information that I just provide. Also the resources that we have there, which is the process for requesting the DS-219, this presentation, the instructions for completing the training internship placement plan, the DS-7002 is what it's called, and the most recent fillable DS-7002, also the request, the link to the request for the DS-2019, and the final evaluation instructions. All of this information can be found on our webpage. And if you have any questions, now is the time. I will go to the Q&A.
Yeah, we do have a couple questions. Do you want me to read it to you, Leandro? Maybe that might be helpful.
Very much.
All right. The first question that we got, can the health insurance and tuition be prorated by months if the students will be here for 2 months or less?
Prorated by if the student will be here for 2 months or less. Well, in that case, I mean, the student must provide the proof of funding for the specific program, which are the amounts that I gave you. Sorry, you got in this case.
Yeah. So the $750, the fee is fixed cost. So regardless how many months the student is here, it has to be. It's not going to be prorated. The living expense can be prorated though. So if the student is only here for example, 2 months, then you can divide the living expenses by 3 times 2, so 2 months. That can be enough to show.
Thank you, Junko. Yeah, correct. The specific fees cannot be prorated, but the living expenses obviously are calculated by the length of the program. Thank you very much, Junko.
All right. The next question is, how much is the CBIS fee? If you don't remember, I can ask a question because I just finished from a different session. It is $220 for J1 students. It's not cheap, but yes, it's cheaper than F1 students.
Yeah, that's true. And it's one time in the record for this record. Okay, the next one, do we offer any support letter to help expedite the processing for certain nationalities, Iranian citizens in France? This is very specific. They're reporting that it take them approximately 6 months to get the visa appointment process at the U.S. Embassy in Paris. Okay, so we provide the DS-219, and obviously they will get the admission letter from the registrar, but we don't provide any document that will expedite per se. A letter won't help expedite because mostly the only information we can provide is the student needs to be here by the start date, right? And that's already on the admission letter and on the DS-219. So any letter that we provide will be redundant. They're already getting our word that we are hosting this student for this date. So in our experience, a letter won't help. The student, of course, can request expedite interview if closing to the start date, arguing that they need to be here by the start day of the program. But besides that, there's not much else we can do because that's the prerogative of each embassy, not even the Department of State. Each embassy has the authority to determine those time and how much time they will take to process any visa application.
All right, the next question is the program window of June to August a strict requirement? We have an intern proposing to start in May. I can answer the question. The answer is no. Unfortunately, no, it's not possible to start in May. The window from June 1st to August 31st is fixed. So students cannot extend it or students cannot come earlier.
Thank you. The next one is, I am an international student holding an F1 visa studying in the U.S. university. I'm eligible for this program. Well, the answer is, since you are in the U.S. already, would you visa allow you to participate in this program? It depends on basically your home institution that they allow you to participate in this program. If you're going to get wages, you may need work authorization because some institutions will allow students to participate in academic programs if they are transferring credits. But if you are getting work experience, you will need to have work authorization. So I will consult with the home institution that is sponsoring your F1 visa to have a better understanding on whether or not you can participate.
Yep. The next question, is the faculty required to pay the Bechtel visa processing fee? I don't know what the visa processing fee is referring to.
I mean, let's go back to the, let me go back to the fees for a moment, because the only fee that is needed to be paid is the UG research intern fee. That's not payable to Vector. So if a faculty is sponsoring a student or is bringing the student on an intern program, whoever is providing the funding, either the student or the department, will need to pay the fee, but not to Bechtel. That will be to the department itself. Sorry, Junko, who's getting this fee? The UG research.
But the university is getting the fee. It goes to the central funding. I don't know, again, if you can clarify what the visa processing fee that you are referring to, that might be helpful.
Thank you.
So maybe we go to the next one, the slide list, the health insurance campus fee, and the insurance requirements for medical benefits. Does that mean that UVRI can waive the cardinal care insurance if they have their own insurance like a VSR? It is possible to have their own health insurance if they do meet the J1 requirements that's listed on the slide.
As long as the private insurance they have meet these requirements, it should be fine. They may need to show proof of insurance to the department first and list the benefits of this insurance. But as long as that private insurance meet these requirements, it should be fine. They can waive the cardinal care. If not, they will get the cardinal care, which covers these amounts. Okay, I think that's the last question. Oh no, I have more.
We pay 200 processing fee for research scholar visas. So maybe that is what they're referring to. Is this the fee also assessed for the student intern DS 2019?
Okay, so this is a different category. This is visitor research interns. This is graduate student. In this case, we're talking about undergrad students, and may not be this. I mean, it's certainly not the same fee. So I would say the only fees the student will need to pay are those displayed on this the screen right now. This might be a fee specifically for postdoc coming as a visitor research.
I'm looking at the link that somebody listed for the fee.
Not in the link for some reason.
Oh, I do see the $350 fee. Good question. This is not part of the amount that we need to see as a part of the funding source, but maybe department do need to pay the fee. I'm not really question. Sorry, I'm not aware of the $350 processing fee. But if we do find out more, we will put it on the website.
We will check this information and put it on our website so you can confirm that the 350 is required as payment for the processing of the UVRI. But in general, I mean, you don't need to prove this as part of proof of funding. The only amount that the student needs to prove is the three items that we're looking at right now. If this fee is due for the processing of the UVRI, we will confirm that and post it on our website.
Thank you. Do F1 visa students already have a validated health insurance required to pay? Do they require to pay the health insurance? No, if they already have the if they already have a health insurance, and then if they are here as a F1 students, then no, they do not need to enroll in a cardinal care or any other health insurance.
Yes, if they already cover they only need to make sure that they cover the amounts that you're seeing on the screen.
They have to waive cardinal care, which must be done through Baden. The insurance has more requirements than J1 visa minimum. Yeah. So J1 visa specifically have requirements for J1 holders, and whatever the insurance that J1 student interns must to meet the requirement. They do have an option to obtain health insurance other than cardinal care, but they do need to make sure that they do meet the J1 requirement.
Okay, I have no more questions so far. Yep, I think if anybody else has any other question, please post it and we will be happy to answer. If not,
Well, I think we got a
please
couple more.
Oh, one more?
Two more. If
Two more.
the PI or hosting faculty wants to pay the fee on the UVRIs on behalf, does the department need to have an official letter from the faculty member? Yeah, I would suggest so.
Just a letter of sponsorship showing that they will pay for that amount, so that will count as proof of funding.
Yep. The housing fee required, or we could find out out of campus housing. I mean, you can find off-campus housing for the students, but the living expense is required. So the students do need to show the proof of funding for that covers the living expense.
The students still need to prove of funding even if they don't live on campus, right? Yep. And oh, I think I dismissed one that I shouldn't have. Oh.
Can student receive a stipend?
Yes, student can receive wages as part of their internship program, but as long as it's still considered for academic purposes and not compensation.
Is there anything else?
I think we're good. As I was saying before, all this information can be found on our webpage. So we will research about the 350 fee from Bechtel and post it on our webpage too. So the answer will be clarified soon. But in the meantime, you can review all this information, this presentation, and the requirements at the Bechtel.stanford.edu. And you just go to the departments tab. Then you click on the F and J students menu, and finally on the graduate visiting research interns, UVRI, and that page will contain all the resources that you need to start your application process. It's very important to remind you that the registrar must approve this the students before you can submit your applications. I don't see any more questions, so I think we're good for today. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. If you have more questions, please email us to internationalstudents@stanford.edu, and we'll be happy to answer any questions before you submit your request or even after. Thank you, Jinko, for.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.